Hi there, it's Nick Seiler here, and welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking a little bit about business partnerships, or having a family member actually work in the business. So today, I suppose the title is how to make a business work when you're in a business, or you have a life partner involved. Even more important. There's a lot of businesses that I work with that have been set up. Whether it's going to be a life partner, husband or wife team. Or a gay couple, or just maybe it's just a family member that's working for you. So there's different sort of opportunities there for life partners and or business partners to work together. And I think it's really, really important to understand that if you've got a family member involved, I suppose it's important to really get some certain things kind of ticked off before either you go into a partnership, or if you're in a partnership itself, whether it's going to be a life partner and or a business partner, you just set the tone or set the momentum for the business itself, because I've seen too many business owners that have had a problem with that, and unfortunately end up losing the business, or losing, even worse, losing the partnership itself, gone from being best of friends to worst of enemies. And I know this personally myself. I've been through two partnerships in business that have been exactly the same. And I think in hindsight, knowing what I know now, could have been pretty much avoided if we had certain things in place. So, all right, so let's talk about 3 or 4 things that I believe that you need to have. Number one is clear role description. In other words, a lot of arguments happen here because people just aren't focused on what their role is. A lot of times, you build up frustration. People kind of go, well, I thought you were supposed to do that. And the other partner goes, no, I'm supposed to do that. Or, a family member goes, well, you should have done that. And then, you come home and start arguing over stuff that should have, could have, would have, right? So not having any organizational clarity, is a really good surefire way to decline. Definitely. Now, a lot of business owners, especially if you're a small business, are kind of jack of all trades. Right. So what we're looking for here is to try to go, instead of us, flowing this role all the time, maybe stepping on each other's toes, let's get it really clear to make sure that, somebody's got a particular, job that they need to do, and then take ownership for that job role itself. Often, people are both good at selling, but maybe somebody's not that good at marketing, or, the business needs a bit more help in the marketing area, and somebody's a lot better at doing system. So then, either somebody goes, oh, well, I'm not going to do that because I'm not too cool at it, or somebody actually doesn't take responsibility that's supposed to do that, and then kind of just palms it off or doesn't do it, then hopes for the other person to do that or pick up the slack. Too often I've seen partnerships or, family members in business be in a situation where they said, oh, out of respect, you should be doing this for me, or, I'm the person that does this. I'm not going to touch anything else, other than that. So, and then once again, it just, without the clear role descriptions, it just becomes messy. Yep, that's number one. Number two is putting, your work hat on. And what I mean by this is there needs to be some separation, especially if you're working with a life partner. I mean, I've worked with a life partner a few times. And, the carryover that comes to home is a bit of a pain in the ass, right? Because it just becomes this whole process of, something that happened at work then ends up going, well, so you didn't even do that at work. And, no wonder you're not a good husband or a good wife or good partner or whatever it may be, and it just ends up becoming messy. The rule of thumb that I have is, I employ family members currently. The rule of thumb I have is, when I'm at work, I've got my work hat on, I'm the boss, and that's how it works. And we need to respect that. I need to respect that you're my employee, and also need you to respect that I'm the owner of the company. So putting the right hat on when you go into work, that's called a business hat, already sets the pace. And there's no hard feelings around communication, or there's no, you shouldn't have said that. I'm your wife, I'm not your employee, or I'm your husband, and I'm not your employee, or any of these type of things, or I'm your cousin, or whatever it may be. There's a lot of different components there that if you get clear about saying, hey, business is business, and then home life is home life, it just makes life once again easier, and it makes the partnership and all the business longevity go much better. Yeah, very, very important, right? Now, the next, number 3 is clear outcome for each person. And this is interesting. I mean, people go, what do we mean by clear outcome for each person? Well, a lot of the times we're not clear, especially where it comes to a partnership, what each other wants. Some people think, well, it's just to make money and grow the business, but sometimes it's not about that. Sometimes one of the partners just wants better lifestyle, or better opportunity that they can take a bit more time off, rather than being employed by somebody else. They've got their own business. They're happy to be in a partnership. They're happy to contribute, but they need a little bit more, time off to hang out with their loved ones, or have a really good work-life integration. But, if one partner is all just about money and achievement and goals and grow the company, and the other person that isn't why they got into the business, well, then straight away we've got some disconnection. And, it usually becomes abrasive between the partnerships. I've seen that a lot. So going into it, stating kind of what you're after is really, really clear. And then, by the way, things change. So I think that should be a regular 6 to 12 month check-in to go, hey, are we still in alignment? Are we still on our path, of what we wanted originally for the business? Or maybe has something changed and, maybe, one partner's going to buy the other partner out. I've seen that before. One partner kind of wants to take it easy. The other person really wants to grow the business. So they, end up in a situation where one person bought the other person out, and they've lived happily ever after. So it's important to get really clear about what's the outcome that you want going into the business, and what's the outcome your partner wants going into that business as well, especially if it's in an equal business partnership that way. Number 4 is what happens when it all goes to dog poo, right? So, what happens when it goes to poo, right? And what I mean by this is it's, being prepared versus not being prepared. I know which one I'd prefer to do, right? And being prepared is just to know what's next. Just to say, hey, if things don't work out for us, what should be the next situation? With me personally, I've been through that. We didn't have that within the partnership agreement, which could have been avoided. It could have been, hey, if one person wants to, buy the other person out, if one person wants to leave, here's the next process. This is how much, how much time we need. This is how we can value the business. This is, the obligation of the person leaving as well, like the obligation of maybe the person that's buying the business. So, having all of these parts, especially when things don't work out too well, and, there's a big, statistic that says, business sometimes doesn't work out the way that you want, especially where it comes to having family members or a life partner or a business partner involved, that were friends before or whatever it is. I think just having that exit clause or just in case, one person doesn't feel like you've been pulling your weight correctly, or at an appraisal, the two partners are, really playing the game of what they want. Very, very, very important to have something in place. Now, I've been in situations where I've coached businesses that each partner thinks that they're doing the right thing, but then talk to the employees. And let me tell you, it was like, daylight versus, nighttime on how they looked at the both leaders at the top. And unfortunately, there was a situation where, the person that people weren't happy with didn't take it too well, didn't want to, change the way that they were. And there was situations in the business where, that partnership actually dissolved, and it was messy because they didn't have any type of structure involved of what it was going to look like. Yeah. So very, very important. And then the final one is accountability. I believe that, everything always starts well in business. Everything, starts nicely. People are into it. They're focused. Doesn't matter how many hours you do. You want to get into it. Nothing's a problem. But as soon as you start to grow and start to make money, and, there's other third party, people involved, like it could be the, the boyfriend or girlfriend of a partner, that's in the business. It could be another family member that's a part of it, like a mum and dad that have given it to the kids, or pass it on to the kids. It just becomes this whole scenario again. So having accountability in place, when somebody does slacken up, and or when there's a job that needs to be done, and or when there's some people need to take some time off. So, what's the accountability around that? is really, really, really important, because accountability just basically says, hey, this is what you need to look after. I'm happy for you to go on holidays, so you need to have a rest. However, these are things that need to get done before you go on holiday, right? So, or, hey, I'm happy to get a pay rise, but hey, these are the things that we need to do in order for us to achieve that pay rise. So those different components are super critical for any business just to have in place, especially if you're going to be in some type of business partnership, or you've got a family member that's working in the business itself. Or maybe you're the family member and you've got somebody that's a business owner that is another family member. So these are important components. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Nick Sala. Remember, only way is